The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week we review Austin's chaotic 4-3-1 over the San Jose Earthquakes. We're going to be joined by MLS legend Bradley Wright-Phillips for a St. Louis City preview, and we'll cover a few other pieces of Austin FC news. My name's Landon and I'm joined as always by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and I want to remind everybody that we're doing a live show on Wednesday night at Turnstile. Hangout starts at 6, show starts at 6:30. There's posters all over Turnstile. It'll be a little bit different from our normal show, but we'll also looking forward to talking about what's going on in Austin FC. And then I also want to mention that I saw a picture of Tito taking in the apocalypse. That would be wild. Taking the eclipse, which everybody thought was going to be an apocalypse, and was like pretty uneventful otherwise today. So like, what did you do today, man?
We've got a nice little park pretty close to our house, so we just took a picnic lunch out to the park and watched from out there. We got some decent little breaks in the clouds and got some good views. Were all able to see anything?
Yeah, I was at the Long Center with about 2,000 of my closest friends, and there was a lot of cloud cover and there were a lot of breaks, and I almost feel like that made it better because there was so many moments when all of a sudden the crowd would erupt when the sun would come out and they'd be like, "Oh," when it go away. And I feel like if it was out the whole time, like the high of the excitement would not have been quite as high. Yeah. So it was very up and down. It was like watching a sporting event, honestly, with a whole bunch of people. But luckily, right at the moment that we got sort of full darkness was super cool because we were right across the river from downtown Austin. And so you looked across and, every office building, all of a sudden the lights came on. It got dark. It got cooler. All the sort of west of Austin, all the cell phone towers, all of a sudden, like with the red flashing lights lit up. And just for a couple minutes, it was like really cool. And it was really cool to experience that with like people, I think was my favorite part of that. It's just like, it was good to for it to be like a common human experience, like all across the central part of the country for people to be able to see that. Yeah,
absolutely. Very cool. All right. Should we get into the story of the week now, Jeremiah?
Let's do that. So maybe the closest thing, maybe this is the apocalyptic event of the week, was that this Austin versus San Jose game, which was like chaotic and amazing. So Austin, I think for the first time in history, grabs a second straight come from behind victory at home, winning 4-3 over the San Jose Earthquakes.
First victory against the San Jose Earthquakes as well.
Right, ever, breaking a 7-match skid against San Jose. And now Austin sits on 9 points in 8th place in the Western Conference. It was everything. I think I posted, I remember if it was on Slacker, if it was in Slacker on Twitter once, that it's okay to be like mediocre and exciting, but never mediocre and boring. And I feel like this is very much a mediocre and exciting Austin team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take if every game were like this and we're still just like a borderline playoff team, but every game was exciting with that, I'd sign up for it. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'll say though, on my rewatch, I was still nervous, like knowing the outcome. The last like 40 minutes of the game, I was nervous watching it on the replay, which is crazy. Like this is how insane this game was. But I guess where should we start here, Jeremiah?
Yeah, let's go with something we talked about a little bit before we went on air, was just the idea of wide open soccer. And for me, specifically, when Austin goes up 3-2 after those, 3 goals in 6 minutes, this is a game of first. I believe that was like the most goals Austin had scored in rapid succession in the history of the franchise too. So after they scored those 3 goals, the fact that they just like kept playing wide open and didn't slow the game down either through controlling possession. Like I could have gone for a little horseshoe to sadness, honestly, in that moment. Like they didn't do that third possession. Josh Wolff did not make defensive substitutions to sort of slow the game down. And ultimately, like a third goal from San Jose comes out of that. Like I was not excited at that moment. And I am not a like, let's bunker now that we have a lead kind of guy. But it felt like that moment, the game was just like so ragged that I was not surprised when that other goal came to tie the match.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like the through line for this whole game is, and kind of the state of Austin FC right now is trying to find that balance. They played those first several games, putting Ring and Valencia deep in the midfield together, trying to be more defensively solid. We couldn't score any goals. We revert back to 2022 mode with Danny as a lone six. We're moving the ball forward. The offense is clicking. The just movement and rotation is all looking really good. We're keeping the ball. We're winning a possession battle and scoring goals now, but we're open in transition again. And I think this is talking about that moment late, like in the second half, where we go up, and then I think a thing that Austin has lacked in certain moments is kind of a killer instinct. And I think last season we saw this some where we would go up and then we would lose a game still. And on one hand, I like the attitude of these Austin players saying, no, we're going to put this one away. We're up 3-2, but as Brad Stuver catches the ball in the box, he's going to launch a counterattack 3 times in a row. And it's like, okay, I like the attitude of we're going to put this game away, but you need to find that balance, right? And I think Brad Stuver would probably tell you. I think all the players would tell you. I think Josh Wolff is probably talking to these players all this week about like, okay, I like the attitude, but let's maybe pump the brakes in that moment a little bit. And and I think do you substitute when you're 3-2? Because there's still a lot of soccer to be played at that moment. Would the narrative be, if you say you sub in Valencia, is the narrative then, oh, we bunkered too early and then San Jose scores anyway? Like,
that's an entirely possible narrative. So this is very much like me, and possibly being hypocritical from other things I've said on past shows, but like in the moment in the stadium, you talked about being nervous for the last 40 minutes on the rewatch, and on the rewatch, one thing I really keyed in on is just how down I was when San Jose scored that second goal that was called back right at like 28 minutes or whatever. And then so then when Austin comes back, I really felt like that 3-2 lead was like, okay, we've done it. Let's just sit on it and pray. And maybe that is not the most, the best decision overall, but like just in the moment, it seemed like there was not a lot of intent, I guess. If we were attacking with purpose, like that was great, but it was like we were attacking with angry feelings and like Brad being super pissed off. And I don't know. That was not my favorite way of playing this game.
And in a game where we were keeping the ball, we were using the ball fairly well. And I think we ended up with 15 shots. Driussi had 4 shots in this game, which is like, it didn't sound like a lot. That's more than most players get in a single game. Like getting 4 shots off is good for a player. Like in that game, I think you're entirely right. Like there's no need to play into San Jose's hands. San Jose wants it to be chaotic. That is where they thrive, is in chaos. And I think in that moment when the players are on this high, they're scoring goals, they want to go get another one. Yeah, I think the right answer is pump the brakes. Let's calm the ball. Let's calm things down a little bit and keep the ball like we've been doing. Let's go get more chances the way we've been getting chances this whole game. And instead, they just played right into what San Jose wanted, of making it an emotional game, making it a chaotic game. And San Jose was able to bring it back. Luckily, Austin still won it because not singularly, but a lot to do with just Driussi looks like old Driussi again.
Yeah, not singularly, but almost singularly. Driussi being himself in a lot of moments, despite his current haircut, which is something that continues to annoy me. So we talked a bit about it being a super wide open and chaotic game. And I feel like the officiating also contributed to that. So we ended up seeing 2 goals that were called back. I believe that both the goals were called back. I felt that was the right call. Both of them. Both the O'Brien. We can get into celebration later. We're going to get into a lot of this later, the specifics, but baby celebration, amazing celebration. Listen to Swoon Tower for like what Mike and Steph will say about it. And the other one was I don't remember when it was, but like that looked like a handball. that was not called late-ish in the game, I think.
That's 53, the 53rd minute. And I disagree with this call. I think Paul Marie's arm is hanging straight down, but his body posture is such that his body's leaning forward. And so as that arm's hanging straight down, like it's not next to his body. Like straight down and next to the body are not necessarily the same thing if your body is not going straight down as well. I think this is super clear that he made his body bigger. He stopped the ball from going in. Lucas Spalla and the VAR team disagreed, which I don't. Yeah, I understand the theoretical argument, but in practice, I think they got this one wrong.
Well, this is one of the moments in the rewatch today or yesterday. Well, and today too, because like it was so exciting, I rewatched it twice. That when Austin was sort of protesting and calling for that to be a handball, I feel like Alex Ring took leadership in that moment, even though he's not wearing the armband. And I feel like I saw a lot of that from Alex Ring in this game particularly. Was I just keyed into that more, or did you also see this too? Like I felt like Alex Ring was de facto the captain this game, maybe more than any other game. I don't know if it was just because there were so many times when they had to talk to the referee about what was going on that I noticed it more, or what. But I wonder about if he's not playing as much, what does that mean for the club in terms of what he does on the field in leadership?
Yeah, I mean, Alex Ring's not going to stop being Alex Ring because he has a piece of elastic on his arm. Like, he's not going to change who he is. Also, like, in certain moments, like, Driussi's English is okay. It's not amazing, though. And so, like with a referee who doesn't speak Spanish, like, I think Ring's probably the better person to go have a conversation anyway. But Ring was calming Driussi down in some of these moments as well.
That was the thing I think it made me notice the most. He was telling Driussi, like, cool, be cool, walk away.
Which to me, like, I don't care that much about. If it's a problem in the locker room and among the players, that's one thing. But if they're all fine with it, if they're all fine with their role and happy with their role, I do not care. I think the captainship is slightly overrated. If refs were more strict about actually only allowing captains to talk to them, I might have a different opinion on it as well. But that doesn't really happen. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm fine with it if the players are fine with it. If they're not, that's a different thing. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily bother me.
Yeah. And I think the other dramatic officiating play was like how Brad Stuver bodied a guy and didn't get a red card. So they called this an orange card play. I mean, he didn't make it.
I didn't think it was a red card.
You didn't? Okay.
No. I think the only way it's a red card, I saw there's a San Jose writer on Twitter claiming that he expects there to be a review and for Brad Stuver to receive a retroactive red card for violent conduct. Do you think that was violent conduct?
What is the difference between violent and reckless? I feel like he wasn't making a play on the ball, and
that's a yellow
knew
card.
What he was doing.
So I think the only two ways you get a red card is if it's dogso, which Biru was there 2 feet away.
Which it wasn't because Biru. Maybe Biru should have been playing the ball, but whatever. I think he saw what Brad was doing. So I don't.
Biru was beat. I think Biru was beat. And so, like, Brad was already off his line. He's like, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. I got to go now. And so I think the only two ways it's a red card is if it's violent conduct, which I don't think it was. It was a blatant foul. Wasn't trying to hurt anybody. Didn't go studs up or anything like that. So yellow card. It's no dog so because Beer's there. Yellow card. So I don't think there's any way this is a red. It's risky and scary, but I think the call was right on the field.
Okay, I can't argue against that right now. So let's go to my other question. Knowing this Austin team and sort of the players have come in from the offseason for right now until the summer window happens, like, is this knowing sort of what Rubio, Obrian, and Biru bring in the offensive zone and seem to thrive in this sort of like open, chaotic system? Like, is this the best way for Austin to get results with the roster that Austin has today?
So what are you calling open? Because I don't like the way they played in the last 30 minutes, I don't think is the same way they played the first 60 minutes.
I would say the way that this team has played in the first the last two games versus the way this team has played in the first, 4 or whatever. Because they've definitely been more open. There's been more transition. There's been more flexibility in the way that people play. There's been a lot of possession, but there's been like less structured possession. And I feel like what I guess stuff like the people who have been acquired in the offseason are the players who thrive most in more of an free-flowing and less dogmatic system.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think what they've done. I think what they've done the last two games is very much a system. They're not making it up. This is positional play. Like they're not. If you watch the patterns that they're doing, it's very structured, and they're like the triangle rotation of Ring, Rubio, and Driussi, all kind of floating into the half space and into the 9 position. The triangles set up on the wings. This is still positional play. They're just doing it good now.
I guess I don't know what that looks like because I haven't seen it in 4 years.
I don't, and this is my big question: is like, why? Like, what changed? Like, why were they so bad at it before and so good at it now? And I think part of it is Driussi and Rubio clicking. Part of it is like as much as in these transition moments, like. It's Danny Pereira is a liability. Some of these other players are liabilities in these moments, but it's what makes the offense tick. Having Alex Ring further forward, like, yeah, he would be better in these defensive transition moments if he were deeper, but his intelligence and movement within this system is part of what is making the clock tick. And so, again, balance, like trying to figure out how to play in a way that makes the offense work without being a sieve defensively. And I don't know if we can do it with the personnel on this team. I don't know if we can do both.
Yeah. If you have to pick one or the other. I guess we're picking the more entertaining one now, which makes
that's the one I want.
Yeah. And it's the one that's led to two straight wins. I mean, regardless of the opponents, like Austin has played poorly against bad teams before, so you can't just like blame it on the opposition.
Yeah, and we'll get into this as we get into more of the details of each goal, but I think with how this team played, with some minor tweaks, like they can be less open in the back. It was not necessarily all structural. It was a lot of decision making on the field that led to some of these moments. And we'll get into those as we go through the goals, but that gives me a little bit of hope. Who knows if the players are have the disposition or the ability to make some of these changes that we're going to talk about. But there are some things that could have been done differently that do not affect our attack that would have made us more defensively sound in some of these moments. And so I'm interested to get into some of those and discuss them.
All right, let's do that. Let's take a break and let's kind of get into the details of the game. Like, this has been a good opening. I'm excited about. Man, 7 goals is fun to talk about regardless. But let's do it, and we'll get into the specifics of these issues with the club. When no one is around.
Moontower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have their own podcast called Summary Judgment. And I got a chance to, on Friday, hang out in the studio where they make that video podcast. And it's pretty cool. It's a good setup. It's better than my back bedroom where we do this.
You can go to FEF.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FEF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify is also the home of fee-free banking and has been that since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balances. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. That's goamplify.com/moontower-soccer.
Moon Tower Soccer is also brought to you by Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden, serving New York-style pizza and authentic Italian. Open in Round Rock, in front of Del Diamond, and on Anderson Lane near Shoal Creek Boulevard near Q2 Stadium.
Our Anderson Lane Beer Garden is just 2 miles from Q2 Stadium. Stop by for pizza and a pint before all this year's home games. And with TVs on every wall, it's a perfect spot to watch all the away games. They play all the Austin FC games with sound on, which is very important.
Let's talk about the April promos. 1, 30 beers on tap. We talked about that last week, featuring the Brewery of the Month, High Sign, and their Seamus the Fiddler, Irish Red, and Violet the Blueberry Blonde. Not have either of those, but just like a good reason to go back and try it again. And also the Pizza of the Month, which is the Little Italy, fresh mozzarella, olive oil, salami, capicola, cherry tomato, ricotta, hot honey, basil. Also, check out 2 for Tuesday, 2 pizzas for the price of one every Tuesday, and Picture Perfect Thursday, half-price pitchers of beer every Thursday.
Dine in, pick up lunch and dinner at Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden. Check them out online at www.tonycsbeergarden.com. All right, we are back. Jeremiah, let's get into more of the details of this insane game. So let's talk about kind of pregame expectations and thoughts. I think both of us wanted to more or less roll out the same starting 11, and it's exactly what we saw, right?
That's what we got. Yeah, that was good to see. I feel like Austin getting their first positive results of the year is what a lot of people wanted to see. That's what we got. I think when we talk about players, we can talk about how maybe at least one of those wasn't the best choice available going forward. But we did not have any surprises there. And then we also, San Jose was missing, I think, at least like 3 players from their starting lineup.
They're missing Jackson Ewell and Preston Judd for red cards. And then their goalkeeper, Danielle, who's been out the whole season so far. So that's who they were missing. One thing I want to note on Austin's 11 is it was the exact same 11 players, but the outside players swapped sides. And so in the Dallas game, it was Gallagher and Owen on the right side, Jimenez and Obrian on the left side. In this game, the pairs swapped together. And I'd be very curious to know what the thinking was. I have some guesses here. My main guess is a defensive one, which Christian Espinosa usually plays on the right side, and he did in this game. And my guess is they didn't want Hector to have to try to defend Christian Espinosa. And so they're going to put Gallagher and Owen on that side to defend him, which if that's why, I'm like, yep, great idea. I 100% agree with this. Heinz Ike is another one that I wasn't sure if we'd see him again there. Not sure if there's any injury concerns with Matt Hedges, or if Wolff is just playing the hot hand and just saying Heinz Ike has looked good, we're going to keep him in there, which, again, if that's the case, 100% fine with that, because I've had very few complaints about him in his last few starts.
But maybe you will in his start today.
Maybe what?
Maybe you will, and from his start today. Or not today, but his start this week.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've been happy with him. I think he's really good on the ball, which I think is probably what Wolff likes about him. But who knows?
All right.
Do you have doubts about him specifically, or are you just saying that we don't know what's going to happen?
No. I was thinking this week being last week. Like, I feel like he did not cover himself in glory, which many of the defenders did against San Jose. So that's.
Oh, really? Was there moments when Heinz Ike was poor?
Well, I felt like on the first and third San Jose goal, I feel like the center backs both sort of went to sleep.
Yeah, the first one is Paul Marie. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so let's jump into it, actually. So the first goal comes in the 20th minute, scored by Paul Marie. It starts with a nice little sequence of pass and move combination from San Jose. they play a bad pass kind of behind a runner at the top of the box. Jimenez is trying to close it down, but not quick enough to get there, and kind of collides with one of their players, and it kind of falls to the backside towards Paul Marie on the backside there. Cascante slides in and wins the ball, but it deflects off of Paul Marie, falls to the middle of the box, and here's where our boy Heinz Eich falls in. Is he tries to head the ball out of the box and heads it straight down to Christian Espinosa's feet, which is, we never want the ball at Espinosa's feet. He's good. Espinosa does well to kind of accelerate past John Gallagher into the box. I think everyone on the backside kind of thinks like Gallagher's taking him to the inline. The only option is going to be to like cut it back, and weren't super worried about it. But Cascante gets up after tackling Paul Marie, jogs back into the box. Marie makes a run behind him. Cascante completely asleep to it, does not see him, does not track him, does not even clock that it's happening. It's a very nice cross from Espinosa, but if anybody's there, like anybody's paying attention, that gets headed out and it's not a problem, but nobody was. And so, yeah, this is a moment where Heinz Eich was at fault for not hitting that ball clear there, but I'm going to put more fault on Julio Cascante, and I'm going to do that a few more times later in this game.
Yeah. Julio didn't have his best game, and I guess my only point on talking about the lineups is these are the kind of things that mistakes that Matt Hedges has not made this year, but there was no reason like leading into this game to think that Heinz Eich, because Heinz Eich's been solid too. I just think like if I was Monday morning quarterbacking it after, I'm like, oh yeah, Matt Hedges wouldn't have made these mistakes.
Yeah.
So maybe that just leads into next week. Like there's I have no reason to believe that we shouldn't have started Brendan Heinz Eich this week.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to keep in mind is those little moments. I think the other thing at play is comfort on the ball, comfort carrying the ball forward, which I think Heinz Eich probably has a slight edge on Matt Hedges, and then also just athleticism. In a team who's going to play in transition against you, I think having a bit more speed in Heinz Eich, he's not like a speed demon, but compared to our other center back options, seems to be the fastest available option at the moment. And so I think that is playing in his favor as well.
Yeah, I guess before we get to the rest of the goals, I don't want to let that point go, except to say that Austin is a faster team now than they have been maybe ever. With like Obrion, with the way Rubio plays, versus the way Zardes plays with Heinz Eich, like there's a little bit of speed in this team. They're not like a fast team, but they're not like a really slow team like they have been in years past too.
Yeah. Let's move on to some of the other key moments. There's another dangerous moment right after that first goal where Stuver spills an Espinosa shot. It leads to a Capo getting a shot from about 7 yards out. Stuver is able to get a hand on it and push it over. The 27th minute is when a second Paul Marie goal gets disallowed. I don't think this was intentional, but watching on the replay, they were not showing the VAR replays playing it back.
They didn't show any of the VAR replays, which leads me to believe that it is intentional.
You think so? Was that happening on other broadcasts as well?
I have not seen that on other broadcasts, but on this one, the only times the screen went black was during a VAR replay. It was during both, at least the two that were called back.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know, listeners, if you know, let us know, because the way, like, the screen did change, and it kind of made me think that, okay, this is supposed to be showing, and somebody messed up, and it's not. But I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they're like, actually on those replays, like on the on-demand version, let's cut any VAR decisions out.
Let's not, yeah.
Which sucks if that's the case. And so I'm going to withhold judgment until we get confirmation that was on there. But if that is the case, then like, come on, MLS. Come on. But yeah, I don't know exactly what happened, but what I think happened was that Kikanovic was offside on the first pass that they played through. Is that what you understood?
That's what it seemed like to me. Yes.
Okay, yeah, it didn't seem like Marie was offside when he got the first ball. But even though this goal didn't count, this kind of highlighted why I expressed concern about Hector Jimenez defensively. He's tracking Marie full speed into the box. Marie chops him, and Jimenez just doesn't have the quickness to be able to put any pressure on him. And so the finish by Marie in the end is really good. Like, kudos to him for making that finish, but a different player, a more nimble player, probably puts a bit more pressure on him in that moment. And Jimenez just can't do that anymore. And that's just the fact of the matter in 2024, the year of our Lord.
Yeah, that's just him as a player, and it's okay, but that's what you're dealing with. That's what you're gonna like roll with when you have him playing in a match.
There's another moment in the 30th minute where an open header at the back post, I think it's Rodriguez, the center back, gets a header and skies it over. 37th minute, Austin has a goal disallowed. Really good finish from Obrian here. He strikes the ball really well right inside the far post, beats the keeper, brings a baby onto the field and is dancing with a baby, which I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm 100% for it.
I love it. And it was his baby. And
I was not sure it was his baby until I was like, did he just grab a random baby? But then it had number 11 and Papa on the back. It's like, okay, it's his kid. He didn't just steal someone's kid.
And it was not only a number 11 and Papa, but it was like bedazzled. It was like a glittery gold number 11 and Papa, which I love people that modify jerseys in that way. And also when you can celebrate with your own baby on the field.
Yeah, it's great.
Unfortunately, didn't count.
This was a super shaky moment, like a period of play for Austin where giving up lots of chances. I think like these two moments, the disallowed goal for San Jose and then the disallowed goal for Austin, even though neither of them counted, I think had a lot of effect on how the rest of this game was going to play out. The players before the VAR call went up, like the players on the field looked dejected. I felt dejected, especially because Austin was like moving the ball fairly well, getting into decent spaces, not quite getting super dangerous chances yet, but the offense looked like it was kind of ticking the way it was against Dallas. And so for San Jose to score that first goal against the run of play, and then to get this super dangerous stretch of other chances, and then score again, I think if that goal had counted, like maybe this game doesn't end the way that it does. And then they go and get this goal. And even though the Austin goal didn't count, I think it gave the players this confidence to say, like, we're not out of this. We can still do this. And so the goal comes later for them to go down 2-0, but they had that confidence. They had something to build off of in that moment. So I think two disallowed goals here still have a lot of effect on the game. What happens next? We go into halftime. I think the first big spot after halftime is the handball review. So a cross comes in from Driussi. Obrian heads it, clearly hits Paul Marie's arm in the box. We already talked about this in the first segment, but I don't. They're being pretty generous. I think if this happens with 10 different MLS refs, you have to guess 6 or 7 of them are giving this pin, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had this Colombian Sunday League, and I'm like, I didn't mean it, but it was absolutely a foul. You're right.
In the 58th minute, San Jose goes up 2-0. This one is Jeremy Bovasi. So Ring receives a pass behind San Jose's back line and cuts it back to the top of the box. Hector Jimenez, as like the ball's on the far side, he's been kind of squeezing a bit more centrally to be able to be an option there. And then also, I imagine part of the idea is in rest defense, if we lose the ball, he's there to kind of kill a playoff. The ball that Ring plays is kind of trickling towards the top of the box, and I think he thinks the ball might fall to him for a shot there. And so he starts on a path towards that ball. As he realizes he is not going to win it, a San Jose player is definitely going to win it. He's already there. He's in like he's in too deep to turn around and go back. So he goes and tries to press and challenge there. They play it out super quickly to Sekiris. He drops it back to Kikanovic, who starts to run up field, or Sekiris starts to run up field. And here is where I think this is like a string of poor decisions that, like, this is a moment that I was referencing before, is if Jimenez registers in this moment that, okay, I'm probably not going to get to that ball, I should drop and get into some defensive positioning here, then this play probably doesn't happen. He does do that. In this moment, then Cascante has to decide, am I going to step to Kikanovic, who has the ball wide? Or should I follow Sekiris, who's making a run behind me, or even just like step wide to kind of take up some of that passing lane? He decides to step to Kikanovic. Kikanovic plays Sekiris in up that left flank. And then he plays a really nice curling ball on the ground around the Austin defenders and into the path of Ebobisse. Heinzike and Stuver do well to close the angle on Ebobisse. Stuver gets a hand on the first shot, but isn't able to push it out of danger or to catch it or anything. And they're both on the ground at this point, and Ebobisse is still standing, so he's able to get to the ball first and punch it in for the goal. But again, a string here of where it's, the offensive system pushing players high puts you at more risk for this. But then there's decision-making moments within this play, within the system, where if Jimenez is a bit smarter, if Cascante is a bit smarter in those moments, then it puts us at less risk. And I think these are the moments Josh Wolff was talking about in the post-game press conference, where just saying, like, we don't need to get into this transition game too much. We need to be a bit smarter in these transition moments.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the other thing, like, we talked a little bit about Brad Stewart having an up and down game, but I feel like this is the kind of ball he usually covers, and then it doesn't bounce back out. And there's not that second shot, because once that second shot comes on, Austin's all out of position, and like the result was inevitable. But I feel like we've seen better from him in moments like this.
Yeah, I'm not too critical of him for the save here, just because it was from such short distance. But there were several moments in this game, at least 2 or 3, where you think Stuver, like, we're spoiled a little bit, right? But we expect Stuver to do a little better in some of these moments, where there's a moment earlier where he spills that Espinosa shot and Acapo gets a short distance one. He saves that one, which credit to him again, but he put himself in the situation to have to save the second one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like it wasn't his best. So finally, like, Austin finally gets one back, which didn't seem that surprising, even down 2-0, just like you talked about, just sort of like the run of play. So Sebastian Driussi converts a penalty off a foul in the box on Rubio that was a foul that he made the most of.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This one,
it was a foul, and he did everything to make sure that everybody in the world knew it was a foul.
Yeah, Obrion squares a ball into the box to Rubio, and he's kind of charging out of the box. Grueso gets to the ball first. I don't think he quite sees Rubio getting there. Grueso definitely kicks him, but, like, yeah, he doesn't have to go down. It's not that kind of a foul, but he does get kicked, and a guy like Diego Rubio is going to jump on that opportunity. Yeah. Like, if you give him the chance to go down in that moment, he's absolutely going to, 10 out of 10 times. And so, yeah, power to him, man. If it gets called and that gives you a better chance of winning, I've got no problem with that. The kick was there.
I feel like that was a little bit of I think we talked about this maybe with one of the Apple guys, but it's like that's one of the things that maybe was missing last year. It's just that dark arts, making the most of every possible situation. So good for him for doing that. Sebastian Driussi steps up. There is I don't think it went to VAR. There was a review there because it took a long time to allow him to, like, line up and take that kick. I think they also said, like, what, Yarbrough is like 1 for 15 or 1 for 16.
Yeah,
kick from the spot or something.
Really surprising to me, because Yarbrough's a decent keeper. He's never been in conversation for, like, best in the league, but I'd say he's at least, like, average, if not above average keeper in MLS. And so to hear that his penalty record was so bad, and then Driussi is above average at penalty taking, I'd say. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't get that nervous when Driussi's taking penalties. And whenever they threw that stat up there, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, this is good. This leads to a wild stretch for Austin where they score 3 goals in, I think it was 6 minutes. So Obrian gets one in the 63rd. This is a long throw by Gallagher. It's 2 headers won by San Jose in the box, but Austin players challenging for these balls on both of them. And I think that's key here because San Jose can't get a clean clearance out. They're just having to do what they can to get a body part on it, whatever it is. And the first one goes deeper into the box. Alex Ring is then challenging for maybe Rodriguez or whoever was in the box there, challenging for that one. He's not able to get any power on it. And it falls to Obrian, who's just kind of hanging out on that post there. And to his credit, he smashes this one. I don't know how intentional it was because he winds up and swings hard, but he places it super well too. Like just tucks it right inside that inside post. And with that kind of velocity on it, I don't think Yarbrough had a chance. So if he did mean to do it, then good on him. But either way, I don't blame him for just smashing it there.
No, it's so good to be. It was it's one of the things I love about him is like have that just taking the chance and not pulling the ball down and recycling it or whatever, but like just bang it on goal and see what happens. And yeah, like you said, then again, like 3-ish minutes later, Austin gets another goal to go ahead.
Yeah, this is the 23-year-old, not 19-year-old Guilherme Biru. This fans, you will probably have noticed on the broadcast that for the last 2 or 3 weeks, they've been saying that Biru is 19. There's another Guilherme Biru who's also from Brazil.
Who is 19. Yeah.
Who is 19. And somehow all of that player's data, including his height, which is, I think, like 5'7", and his birthplace and his age, were all put in for our Guilherme Biru's profile on MLS. And I'm gonna quibble with some of the announcing on TV a bit later on, but this one I don't blame on them. If it's in the official MLS documentation, like I'm not mad at the announcers for getting it wrong, but MLS should not have that wrong. Like that's embarrassing.
Right. That's on the league. Yeah, it's not on the announcers. It's like don't give Mark Followell a hard time about it. But he's just following what's in front of him. But it's a little bit frustrating. Like this league is not better about things like this. So yeah, but it was. I mean, banger. Was it outside the box?
It was. Yeah. Killer goal. And the call on this one, to give the commentators credit, man, the call on this was so good. It was one of those where they both just yell, they both just scream, and then the call was excellent. But it's a similar pattern of play that leads to the no call handball, where they've kind of like overload one side, Ring and Driussi. This is a pattern that I've noticed has changed, where as the ball is over on one side, both of the 10s will kind of go over to the same side of the field, and Ring makes a run in behind and someone plays him through, and he crosses the ball to the penalty spot where Obrian is making a run into the box. And so the same pattern that led to that other chance. And it doesn't get to him this time. It gets headed out, falls to the edge of the box. Driussi and Bitter are both charging for the follow-up. And I love the confidence of Bitter to see Driussi going after it and saying, nope, this one's mine. I'm taking this one. And I wonder, I don't think there was a good enough angle on it to say one way or another, but I'm curious if Yarbrough maybe froze a little bit because he saw both of them approaching and he didn't know if it was going to be a right footer to the far post or the left footer to the near post. Maybe he didn't have time to register any of that, but Bitter gets to it, just smashes it and puts it into that near post. Really sweet strike. Great goal.
So Austin has the lead. Then it gets, we talked about earlier, then it gets a little chaotic and loose and open. They're very susceptible to counter. And I believe that Amal Pellegrino coming on or like the 69th minute. And then
he hadn't been on the field long.
Again, saying that like this guy scored 75 goals in the last 3 years in Norway. You should watch him. Then and 5 minutes later, something happens.
This is the moment where I want the players to kind of like calm things down. Brad Stuver to calm things down, because we've seen them try to break in this transition moment where Stuver will make a save and someone will make a run, like Obrian or Danny or Gallagher will just streak up the flank and he'll throw it. And I think it was Danny in this moment, and it led to a decent chance. Like it's hard to tell him that's a bad idea, because it led to a decent opportunity on the far end that it didn't amount to anything. But then they do it again and again. And so like 3 times in a row, they're just making these big sprints. And so John Gallagher was making these sprints every time and gets upfield, is 1v1 with the defender and has no legs. And so he ends up just giving the ball away to the defender. They go back the other way. And as they play it up the field, John Gallagher is struggling to recover because he's just made 3 90-yard sprints or whatever. And then Cascante is dropping into his box and almost playing as if he still has a fullback there. He's kind of floating centrally, and there are some players there centrally, but Pellegrino's out like at the edge of the box by himself. And Christian Espinosa, again, makes this look easier than it was, but plays a really nice little diagonal ball across the box there, falls on Pellegrino's foot, and Cascante tries to close him down, but he's able to get the shot off, and a beautiful shot from Pellegrino to kind of curl it into that far post there. But I mean, just the decision making in this little period, I think, was poor, where they pushed themselves a little too hard, were playing into San Jose's hands, and then Cascante not being aware of where players were in the moment and who wasn't there, and recognizing like, okay, this guy who, like you said, has scored a ton of goals in his career is over here by himself, and there's no one else in front of me. Maybe I should cheat to him a little bit, and doesn't, and gets punished for it.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, you've mentioned his name several times, but for some reason he never sticks with me. But like Christian Espinosa is really, really good. Maybe
he's
it's
a great player, man.
He's great, and maybe it's because like San Jose is never very good, but I feel like he's super underrated. And just like every time Austin plays them, like, oh yeah, Espinosa is like if Sebastian Driussi is not at his best, then Christian Espinosa is the best player on the field, and he was the second best player on the field for either team tonight, and he does so many things, and I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for being who he is because of San Jose and who they are.
So the rest of regulation is Austin throwing numbers forward, San Jose defending deep and then trying to break on the counter, and Austin is just kind of holding on by the skin of their teeth. San Jose gets several more chances, like some pretty scary moments, especially like springing out on Austin set pieces. So these long throws or corners where Austin's throwing numbers forward, and then again, either not making plays or making bad decisions and putting themselves in tough spots to then have to be in a scrambly transition moment when they really probably didn't need to be. But Austin, like, it seemed like Wolff was going for the win, right? He brings on offensive substitutions when he had Hedges and Valencia there, and he can't afford to go for draws at this point, right? And so
at this point he can't. At the point where to back to the point at the top of the show, at the point where it gets 3-3, I'm like, bring on all the offense. You're playing for a win. Like what I would have brought defensive subs on was once Austin built a 3-2 lead to like help slow it down. But yeah, when we are now, like it's against one of the worst teams in the Western Conference at home, you have to play for a win.
Yeah. So Austin's pushing for the win. Cascante and Biru are playing as forwards for a decent chunk of the added time. I think it was 10 minutes of added time with all the VAR reviews and the goals and whatever else. 10 minutes got added. Sebastian Driussi, in the 100th minute mark, ticks by on the clock. I'm sitting here thinking, like, this is it. We're going to get one chance, if that. Like, maybe they're going to blow the whistle before any of that happens. Gallagher plays in across. I don't think he necessarily had a target in mind. I think he just, I don't know what to do, man, and just rips one in. Jossi Zardes is posted up at one of the center backs, does a really good job to just kind of knock the ball down with his foot. Driussi, as he does, is just kind of waiting and just is in the right spot. So it comes off of Zardes' foot, bounces twice, and Driussi's there and hits it. And I think like on that bounce, it adds to the power a little bit, but also requires more skill to keep it low off of that bounce. And so to hit it with that much power with the outside of his boot and kind of curve it outside of his boot just inside that post, like excellent finish, really, really great finish. And this is the moment we're like, okay, old Driussi is back. Like we've got him now. He's here.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. It was just unbelievable. Like you said, for a ball to bounce that way and to hit it the way he did with that much power is just something that very few people, especially in this league, and very few people in the world can do. And he just he does it, and it's like, it's just another day at the office or whatever for him.
Yeah.
Like it was incredible.
But what a great moment in that stadium. Like the fans needed it. The stadium needed it. The community needed that moment. And so Driussi gave it to us, and it was very welcome.
Yeah, and with that stadium, I would say from his PK that he converted on, like that was a very 2022 stadium. Like
yeah,
for those 6 minutes, like all right, never stopped because they kept scoring goals in such quick succession, and then it was everybody standing, whether you were in the supporter section or not, everybody chanting, like ton of noise, and for him to deliver that to sort of like put the point on all that, and also like I love this guy because his name's Jeremiah, but like great job from the announcer on helping like contribute to that environment in the stadium too. Like it was just the best moment of the year so far.
All right, we're probably going a little long, but I think we should maybe call out a few individual players. Do you have any that you wanted to start with?
I guess I'll do the cup. One Emiliano Rigoni doesn't play again. Austin wins again. I'm okay with that. And the reason I'm okay with that is because Owen Wolff is a pretty good winger.
Yeah. I mean, I think like on Owen was dead by the end of this game, and his legs were gone. But I think for the most of the game, just eyeball test, I thought he played a good game. We're going to have an argument about his set pieces here in a second. But before we get there...
Okay, cool.
I wanted to bring up, there's this really cool Twitter account called MLS Stat, who's been posting these little visualizations of passes into the final third and like the line of confrontation the defense is setting. And one of the little charts that they post is the expected threat statistics, which expected threat, I'll let Kevin Morris or whoever come yell at me if I get this wrong, but it's essentially tracking as a player moves the ball either by passing it or carrying it from one part of the field to the other. Did they bring it to a more dangerous part of the field or to a less dangerous part of the field? And so, for example, if you look at this chart for Austin FC versus Orlando City, I think there were only a handful of Austin FC players who had a positive expected threat number, and several starters had negative numbers because there were so many just negative passes into nowhere. In this game, Owen Wolff had over a score of 1, where Driussi was second and had, I think, just over 0.5 or 0.6 or something. And so, although Owen Wolff didn't do a ton of like fancy stuff, he didn't contribute to a goal, didn't contribute directly like he has in other times this moments. I think just like the simplicity that he plays out on the wing with and kind of playing within those triangles, moving as part of the system, I think he's been a really good addition to this team. And again, even I'd say the same thing about Alex Ring. I was talking about him just like being smart in certain places. And Alex Ring in this game had some opportunities to be in the box, to make a more dangerous pass, to maybe shoot the ball, and didn't quite finish those up. But just him being in the right spots and moving within the system was a net positive in my eyes to the team. I say the same thing about Owen Wolff in this game, where, yeah, it didn't stand out, didn't look flashy, but just playing within this system, it seems to work the way that it's set up right now. And so I wouldn't touch it. Let's leave it the same.
All right, so now we're going to argue about his corners.
Yes.
Me and many other people thought they were not very good because they were very low and did not seem very threatening.
I promised I would quibble with some of the announcing. Warren Barton, the color commentator, kept saying he needs to beat the first man. He should just kick it into the penalty spot and just get it in the mixer. And this has been my kind of quibble with Warren Barton for decades at this point, where
oh man, I didn't know I was dredging up this old grudge.
Warren Barton is like an old school proper football man. And I think he thinks everything should be done the way that it was when he was playing. And was not like recognizing that, like, did you ever think that maybe they're trying to do something else, that like they're not just lumping it into the box and hoping that they get ahead on it? And that's what they were doing this moment. They're in past games, we've seen the center backs kind of like streak towards that near post, and they'll play it off of their heads and have guys running in behind. And then in other games, it was Johan Valencia kind of stepping to that near post and playing it off of his head. That's what they were trying to do with Hector Jimenez there. And so if you're thinking like, yeah, they're just trying to play it into the penalty spot and fight for a ball, then yeah, those corners look terrible. But it's not what they were trying to do. He was aiming for Hector Jimenez's head at the near post. And in a moment where like corner kicks are super low percentage anyway, right? Like some of those low ones that didn't quite get there led to another corner. And so it's like, I think the risk reward of it is not so bad, but I think just like having the context of what they were actually trying to do, they weren't as bad as it may have seemed. And then the ones when he did play it elsewhere, I thought like his crosses from set pieces deeper in the field, not just corners, I think he's an improvement over Kolmanic and Rigoni. I think his balls are better than either of theirs have been.
Wow, that's aggressive, man. I don't know. Like,
come at me.
I'm just looking for Coleman to come back for those. What do you? I've also read this alternate theory that Owen is taking those because like anybody who would be better at taking them is a target. And it's like you just have the little guy like take those kicks to. No, you're not buying that.
Owen is a good crosser of the ball. Go back and watch his assists, and he's played some assists in his Austin FC career where he plays in a killer cross. And like Jean's left foot is sexy, but it's rarely accurate. And Rigoni is Rigoni. I don't need to elaborate.
Well, I'm not going to bring Rigoni on just to like make better corners for sure. But
I think Owen, not just the best option. I think Owen is good at crossing the ball.
Okay. I will continue to watch Owen and see if I agree with you at some point. But I feel like, especially for the corners in this match, before I watched Warren Barton talk about it, during the run of play, I felt like I do not need to see another low ball into the near side of the box that leads to nothing. Like
we spent too much time on set pieces, but what did you think of the little Owen Danny short corner routines?
I was gonna say I've grown to not hate short corners. Like so, I'm maturing in this way. Like that one. And I know you have to do other things to mix it up, but like that was I like that.
They're doing them better too. Like I think the way that they're doing it quick. They're still getting a cross in relatively quickly. And so if you can improve the spot you're taking the cross from and doing it quickly while there's still an advantage in the box, that's fine. We weren't always doing that last year when we started this debate. And like I think the idea was statistically short corners are better, but the way that Austin FC is doing them maybe isn't statistically better. But I think that little routine with Danny and Owen, just playing it really quick and kind of playing off of each other, I think that could lead to some dangerous moments going forward.
Yeah. I do agree with that. I don't hate that. So let's do you want to take a break and then do the St. Louis preview?
Yeah, let's do it.
Moon Tower Soccer's premier sponsor, McGuire Woods Consulting, helps clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only advertises on this podcast because it's the home of the two-time reigning Copa Tejas champions. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information.
Moon Tower Soccer is also brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client-focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. Our friends at Sage Wilson Realty are also giving away 2 tickets to an upcoming match, so fill out the form in the show notes for your chance to win.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com. All right, we are back. We are going to be joined by Bradley Wright-Phillips, which we're very excited about to do our St. Louis City preview. But before that, we have a few pieces of Austin FC news we wanted to cover. Let's start off with some transfer rumors out of Argentina. And I don't know if you've noticed this, Jeremiah, but I've been specifically choosing the word rumor or report based on where and how we're hearing about these things. I chose the word rumor here.
Yeah, this seems very loosely connected to reality. Or wait, the biggest point I want to make is that a lot of times people ask us what's Austin going to do in the summer and give us some specific targets. And I think the nature of these rumors that we're hearing just sort of reemphasizes the point that like the whole world is the target, and none of us really have any idea about any of these players, good or bad, or what the real interest is, or what the real level of play is, or anything else.
Yeah, so before we dig too far into it, let's give the actual details. But there's a few different Twitter accounts out of Argentina. One saying that Austin FC players would be present at is it River and Newell's Old Boys? Is that the two teams?
Yeah, River.
Okay.
Yeah.
To scout a Newell's Old Boys player. And then another account was calling this account out for not giving them credit for saying that they had it first. And then also saying like, I heard that Austin's scouting these other 2 players and not the one that you're talking about. So there's now 3 young players at Newell's Old Boys that are apparently being scouted by Austin FC. This part, I don't doubt. Like that very well could be true. That Austin has scouts at 2 of the best teams, that like the best talent factories in Argentina. Sure, I hope they
should,
that game.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as like how much stock to put into any one of these names, like at this point, I'd say very little, because they're not going in looking at 3 guys and going to sign all 3 of them. Like if that's the report, like the level of report we're getting, it means all I'm taking from is like maybe they're going to watch Newell's play, and that's it. And maybe they'll like one of them, and maybe they'll be one of the MLS teams who also likes them, or one of the teams in the world who also likes this player. But I'm not going to put any money on Austin actually signing any of these guys.
Which is a good change from the previous regime, because we're not going to go to Paraguay and sign 3 players off the same team. It's great.
Can you imagine a team doing that, Jeremiah?
No, I don't know how that would happen. But it's just like there's going to be a lot of rumors between now and the summer. It's good scouts are out doing their job. The nature of those rumors leads one to believe that those are coming from the player side of things, right? Trying to build players up. And, you know, it's a long ride. And I like follow Cesar Luis Merlo or Tom Bogert. Real things. I guess the other, so there was like a really cool
community news, right?
Community news, yeah. See the art installation of McCalla Station. I haven't actually seen it live yet, but it's like super cool to see many of our friends and supporters that we know who have been part of building this franchise be in tile form and recognizable at the station.
Yeah, we went over there. We were over there during the unveiling before the game the other day, and a couple of people that I like have known for several years now. In Quesadilla is on there, and then Gabby Navarro as well is on there. And Gabby is a person who was playing in the Murga from the pre-COVID days, from like the Austin Anthem days, and like that's when I started knowing Gabby. And Gabby's like, I've never played a drum, but I'm gonna learn. And so she just was one of like the OGs in the Murga, and ended up being Los Verdes president and one of the leaders of the Murga, and just like a really important part of this community. And to get to see them on that day and see how good the mural looks. It was really special. It's a nice little moment.
Yeah, yeah, it was super cool to see that, and I'll never lose my vision of Kissy yelling at me for not covering somebody like playing in a pickup match. There's that too, right? Like, it's the active, like him screaming in the fans and screaming at me. And then also on Sunday, the Laundry Project, which is a big cause of both Brad Stuver and Freddie Keeper Keep Brad and Carrie Tillery, collected 1,000 pounds of laundry supplies, which should cover every project this year. They've got 7,000 loads of laundry since doing this in 2021. It will start on April 28th, and actually, they have such a good response that I was asking Brad, like, what can we do to help support it? And he's like, well, we don't need more volunteers right now. Still raising money. So there is an amazing Brad Stuver scarf, which everybody should buy, that you can get at the Engage Current, which is the nonprofit that runs the Laundry Project. You can get it at their store. So we'll put that link in the show notes. Encourage everybody to go check that out.
All right, let's get to our interview with Bradley Wright-Phillips. I'll say this in the interview, but I'm a big Bradley Wright-Phillips fan, both on the field and now that he's in the studio. I think he's like the best version of bringing a former player into the studio. I think he's great. So super excited when we got a chance to talk to him, and hope you enjoy it too. All right, we are thrilled to be joined by an MLS legend and currently an MLS 360 host on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. It's Bradley Wright-Phillips. Bradley, thanks so much for joining us, man. We couldn't be more excited.
What's up? Thank you for having me. I appreciate the love.
So Bradley, you're a player I really enjoyed watching. I really liked your style. I want to get into your playing style and kind of your take on some players we're going to see in the game here in a little bit. But I've also really enjoyed you in studio as well. I think I've gone on record as saying that there are some players who make this transition into media, and sometimes their media training has been beaten into them so hard that they can't get interesting words out of their mouths. But I think you are not a person who's ever had trouble with that. And I said the same thing to your old buddy Sasha Kleshton when we had him on. I think y'all both do an excellent job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's something I'm trying to pride myself on. I wanna be knowledgeable, but I also want to be Bradley. I feel like when I was playing, I was very close, didn't like to do interviews, and I feel like a lot of people probably didn't know me. They probably didn't know what my personality is like. So I make sure on the weekends I try and bring that out a little bit. It needs some working on, but it's something I pride myself on. So thanks for noticing.
Well, Jeremiah, you want to take us through? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, before we do, I feel like I wanted to follow up on that question and just ask, like, what does that look like? Like you have a long story career, 6th leading goal scorer in league history, and then you want to transition to the booth. Like, what made you want to do that? And then it's like, how do you sort of work on the craft of making that shift?
Yeah. So what made me want to do it was, I think just seeing my dad and my brother do it. I thought it's something I could probably go into, and it's something I thought I want to be good at. And then when I got there, then I realized it was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. I thought you just turn up almost like this, you just talk, have fun, and that's it. And then I get there and I was taken back, like big cameras, the earpiece when they're talking to you during the show. And it was a lot to get used to. And then trying to be myself during all of that. So it's been a lot to get used to. But yeah, I thought about doing it, throughout my career. I wish I started earlier doing a bit more media stuff. I was very closed with that kind of stuff, but yeah, it's been fun.
What have been some of the hurdles you face? I know we get a small taste of that doing this show, and we've done some live events and stuff like that, but never to the degree of what you're doing with lots of people watching you on TV, having to look presentable, sound presentable, and then try to be entertaining and intelligent at the same time. What have been those the obstacles you found to be most difficult in that transition?
I think most difficult, first of all, I'd say preparation. On our show, we're watching a bunch of games. You don't want to talk about, let's say we're talking about Austin. I don't want to go too in depth if I don't know enough, because, there's beloved fans out there that will be like, what's he talking about? So doing the prep on each team is very challenging. And then, like I said before, just getting comfortable in front of camera and being comfortable with my opinion. Those have been the toughest hurdles for me.
And then when you're what does that look like? Is it just a wall of TVs when you're when you're doing MLS 360, because you're kind of cutting in and out and flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, what does the physical setup look like when you're doing that?
So 360, we're on the desk. Last season, we used to be all over the studio, but we're on the desk now. There's a big A wall behind, a massive screen. I don't want to say how big it is because I'm not sure. I don't want to get it wrong, but it's the biggest screen I've ever seen. Sometimes they put like a bunch of games up there, but a lot of the time we're at the desk and there'll be maybe a 70-inch screen, and then there'll be a small one. So we'll have like eight screens on one, and then we'll have our show on another one, if I'm correct. But yeah, there's a bunch of TVs around there, bunch of people in there, bunch of TVs. Yeah, it's tough to get used to. Honestly, it's quite tough to get used to. Yeah.
Let's jump into the St. Louis game coming up. Jeremiah, do you want to run us through your research here?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, St. Louis, a new team in 2023. I feel like everybody had very low expectations. Everybody predicted them to finish at near the bottom of the table. Right. Which we were all wrong. I am sure that Landon and I both said the same thing, because Austin's first game last year was against St. Louis, which we felt like was going to be an automatic victory. And to be a very chaotic home loss. But they ended up losing the playoffs to SKC in the first round of the actual playoffs.
Yeah.
Which also beat Austin's last opponent. Berkey was the goalkeeper of the year. So I feel like expectations were higher this year. Not a ton of changes. I think Giacchini out was obviously the big one.
Yeah.
Jared Stroud out was one that, like, he played in Austin. We grew to hate him. And
very
him.
Very underrated player for me, Jared Stroud.
Yeah. And then Deere and Chris Durkin in. So, like, let's talk about, so we kind of go through those changes. You know, what do we see out of St. Louis now? And, like, what were you expecting coming into this year, Bradley?
Honestly, it was St. Louis. I was expecting them to push on. I wouldn't say better than last season, but look the same. And I'll be honest, they're not playing very different. But I remember last season, they were getting almost the luck of the bounce. They were making their own luck. Don't get me wrong. They're very positive, a very hardworking team, honest bunch of players with some quality in the attacking areas. But they were a lot of balls were falling in, and they were finishing. This season, I've noticed they've been hitting the bar. They're not taking the chances that they're creating. So it's been a bit unfortunate. Maybe they set the bar a little too high, which it was a fun season, but now they have a target on their back. So now when they're going to play teams, or teams are coming into their stadium, they have a respect. And that's a challenge in itself to overcome that. When teams now respect you and understand what you're good at, it's harder to play against those teams. And I think that's what they're struggling with this season.
I know Andrew Wiebe and Matt Doyle love their regression to the mean narratives. Is that what we're seeing with this team, or is it? I know they're missing Klaus for a few games. They're missing Lubin for a few games currently, and might not be back for this game against Austin. Is this team just have less talent available on a week-to-week basis, or do you view it as last year being an anomaly and them just kind of like coming back to earth a little bit?
Yeah, the second point you said, last year was a very good season. They outdid themselves. I still think they have the talent. When you're talking about Klaus, he just hasn't got going yet. Imagine when he gets going, a lot of those draws or losses will turn into victories. A Deneran that comes off the bench, who's now starting to try and push to be a starter in that side, very good. Jackson,
Jackson's exciting, man.
Very underrated, very, very clever player, plays in those pockets and create from there. And then obviously Lovin, they got some good players. I wouldn't say it's talent. I'd say they're just finding their way again with the new challenges that are upon them. And that's teams respecting them.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about strikers. So I think your style of play was a little bit hard to label. I think you weren't quite like a post up on the back shoulder striker. You weren't quite like a fault. You kind of had your own style of play. I think Diego Rubio, not the same player as you, but also a little bit difficult to define. What do you see in Diego Rubio? I know here in Austin he's been a welcome change for us. What do you see in him?
Always been a fan of Rubio. I think what I like about him is he's a nuisance. I would go out on the pitch and I would try and be a nuisance. I want to make it difficult for the defenders. I don't want him to know where I am at all times. I want to run him behind. I know defenders don't like to run him behind. I don't just want to make runs from one area. I want to make it from all different places. So I'm hard to track. And when I watch him, he's similar to that. He's lively. He can attack you from all different ways, and he's never standing still. And for me, that's a defender's nightmare. A player like that is always going to opportunities are always going to fall their way because they're, like I said, opportunists.
Yeah, and Joao Klaus on the other side, he's a guy. I mean, I think the last game when St. Louis came to Austin, he was still coming back from injury. Adeniran had been on a tear. He didn't give Austin too much trouble while he was on the field. They bring Klaus on in the second half. They threw some other numbers on too and really started pushing forward and kind of pinned Austin back. But Joao Klaus specifically was giving us a lot of trouble in that game. What are your thoughts on him as a player?
Also a brilliant player. The thing with Joao Klaus, just his stature alone is a problem. It's a problem for a defender. But then to add to that, now he has a good touch. He has a good football IQ to where he can link with his midfielders or the wide players. He can do everything. And that's what makes him dangerous. And then when he gets in front of goal, he's classy. He doesn't snatch at anything. He especially last season, he was very clinical. So yeah, he presents problems in a different way to where when he's in the box, you need bodies around him because you can't give him too much space just because of the height and strength alone. And then he can also turn away from a player, or he can also make clever runs and be on the end of a play. So I'm a big fan of his. When he gets going for St. Louis this season, they'll look like a different team.
Yeah, watching their game against Dallas last week, he hit the post at least once in that one. Has hit the post several times this season, and so you could maybe just look at it as a little bit unlucky so far. Yeah. Hopefully that luck doesn't change too much against Austin this weekend. But
you're hoping it doesn't change for the weekend. But that's always a positive I look at for forwards. When forwards are in a bad place, and I wouldn't say he's in a bad place. It's still early in the season, but when they're not getting the goals, I look how many opportunities are they creating, how many opportunities are getting created for the forward, and he's not starved. So eventually, if he keeps getting in the right spots, he will get goals. It's just a matter of when.
Well, I do want to go back to, you mentioned Jared Stroud, liking him as a player. And obviously, after the Kip Keller back pass to him for the first game last year, we kind of all hate him in Austin. But, like, what is it about him? What is it about him that you like, even though he's not in St. Louis anymore? I was interested in that perspective.
He's one of those players that when you're going into a game, you look at the team sheet, you overlook. But Jared Stroud, one of his main strengths is he's fit. He can run at the same speed, like for 90 minutes. He doesn't stop. But then when he gets into the final third, what I like about Jared Stroud, he doesn't complicate anything. If the ball's there to be crossed, he's putting it in straight away. Dangerous ball. If there's a shot opportunity, he's hitting the target. He gets more goals than you would expect. Every season you wouldn't put him as a player that's going to get over 5 goals. He does that. He gets goals and assists, and he's, for me, underrated. I think the longer he goes on getting these numbers in the MLS, he'll be a household name in this league. Someone that has been underrated.
They ended up getting Chris Durkin out of that trade, which I think Durkin's been quite good as well. But Durkin is a much more defensive presence, and so you can kind of see that a little bit, right? That they Gioacchini out, Stroud out, and then missing Leuven and Klaus at certain times. That defensively they've still been okay, but not able to put as many goals in as they wanted to.
Yeah, that's the one thing I would always worry about when teams are making trades. It's just that final third creativity, someone that's willing to make the extra run, because you can't buy that. You know, these things are a thing that this is a feeling players have. You have to be able to figure it out in the final third. And Gioacchini and Jared Stroud had those qualities.
Well, I think this is actually a little bit related to both teams, but I was originally wrote it more for Austin because Austin has like a very clearly defined scheme that Josh Wolff wants to play, and I feel like last week we saw not that. We just saw like open play and vibes and sort of playing the games that comes to you regardless of what the scheme is. Like for you as a player, like what did you prefer? Like were you in a place and like trying to do it like a thing and like a defined system, or were you just kind of relying on what happened in the moment, or do you have a preferred style of play? Either as player or announcer. I
feel like if you asked me that before I got to America, I would have said, or not even just America, before 2015, when did Jesse come in? 15, I would have said, yeah, I just like to go out and freestyle. I don't really care about the structure. I just do my thing. I'm trying to make runs. But I learned with a real structure, real identity, every player knows their role. It made it a lot easier for me. So I would prefer, having an identity and knowing exactly what's wanted from every player, because it worked out well for me. As a player, I always needed to know if I'm not scoring, how am I playing well? Like, what is a good game for you? I remember asking Jesse that. If I don't score today, how have I played well? And it will be running in behind, competing with defenders and holding up the ball. And it it just made things a lot easier for me. And it takes the pressure away from just scoring goals. I can have a good game without scoring goals. So for sure, having a defined structure and a way of playing helps.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on either of these teams before we wrap up?
Honestly, what you guys played them not too long ago, right? It was 2-2.
It was one of our first handful of games, and it ended up being 2-2.
2-2, yeah, which was a fun game. What I would say, Austin coming off a win, a big home win that they needed. Well, 2 now, right? Back-to-back home wins.
That's right.
What they needed. You're going to go into that game with confidence. It's going to be really good. I'm expecting a fast start. I'm expecting a lot of goals in that game. But then you got to be careful because St. Louis is, like I said before, it's only a matter of time. They still have the quality. But I would like to see from the Austin side, it's a bit more of a complete 90 minutes. I've seen spells in the game where they've attacked well. There's other spells where they defend well, but then they'll give up a goal. And I'm like, how did that happen? Why is there only 3 players back here right now? You know, especially when you've got the lead. So I can imagine Josh Wolff has spread that around the facility. Like, let's have a more controlled game, a game where we're in more control of, where there's more balance. Because you don't want to be in games, while it's great for the neutral, while it's great for MLS 360, it isn't great for Austin when the game's just in the balance, back and forth. It's not a real way of getting wins.
Yeah, we're going to spend some time on that exact point in the rest of the show, but there's been some personnel and kind of tactical adjustments where we were a bit more defensively solid early in the season, but weren't scoring.
Yeah.
And we kind of went back to 2022 style with Danny Pereira, lone 6, who moves the ball forward really well, but
big fan of him.
A liability in defensive transition at times. And so I think there's still moments in this last game, even though we gave up 3 goals, where we didn't need to, we didn't have to. And like some decision making, some structural things in rest defense and things like that, where I think Austin can be a little better, but this is where St. Louis is so good. And that's what scares me about this team, is the style that they play is what Austin has been vulnerable to that their entire existence pretty much.
Yeah, St. Louis are going to force teams into mistakes. What I would say is you're right. There has been a lot more focus on the defense at Austin, but the big plus is Driussi back and now getting his first 2 goals of the season. If you can just stay solid, give the opposition minimal opportunities, Driussi can pop up with a moment of magic and get you a win. So I'd like to see them focus on that more. Be very defensive, almost in a way like how Nashville were last season. You don't want to just rely on one player, but it's good to know that if we keep it solid at the back, we do have a game winner up front for us. So it'd be good to see them more focused defensively.
Yeah, we'll see if they can do both of those things. They haven't been able to so far. But
Yeah.
All right. Well, Bradley, thanks so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. And looking forward to hearing you in the studio on MLS 360.
Now, Landon and Jeremiah, thank you for having me, and good luck this weekend. Hope it goes well for you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Have a great night.
All right, we are back. We want to thank Bradley Wright-Phillips one more time. Before we wrap up, we'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a nice review. It takes a few minutes. If you're thinking about leaving us a bad review, just don't use your time and energy to do other things.
do something else. Yeah.
If you want to come find us, I am at El Viajero 87 on Twitter, less and less every passing week, but still there some. And then Jeremiah is at jbentley_ATX, and then we're at Moon Tower Soccer on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Oh, and again, like at least once this week on Threads, like we try. It's a great platform. We're not there.
Check out Phil West Substack, verdeallday.substack.com. And then Patreon. We're going to have Patreon stuff finalized like in the next week. I need to show you some designs after we end this call, Jeremiah. But we'll have that published very soon, and we're going to start bothering you more about joining our Patreon. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a review of the St. Louis match, and then preview the second Copa Tejas match versus Houston, and cover all the other Austin FC news of the week. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Thank for nothing. You never.
La gente
Oh my God.